Okay, it's 10:30 by my clock, so let me, this is Mark Pattison. Let me call the meeting of the New York State Cemetery Board to order. First, let me just run some protocols, just this new format of remote meetings. I think this helped it by a couple things. First, the meeting's being recorded. I think you probably heard that when you got on. One of the things we need people to do is identify yourself when you're speaking, and that's each time that you're speaking. Don't also forget to mute your device when you're not speaking. That's very helpful. We will have a portion for public participation. If you have WebEx, you can use the chat function to say you would like to speak when the time comes. I'll announce that. If not, we'll have to just sort of muddle through, and I'll call to the audience who wants to speak, and we'll just sort of go through that. We do need to take attendance, so at some point I will be, again, asking for everybody that's on from the public that's on the WebEx in the meeting to identify themselves. And if you are on and you don't get called on or don't get in just because you email the division and let us know that you are on. Also, we will at some point, I think, go into executive session. We've set up a different meeting room for that. When we do go in, if the board votes that way, we will come back out of the executive session and either announce actions taken or adjourn the meeting. So you could be sitting in this meeting without us for a bit. If you want to, you can email Louis Polishuk, and he will let you know when we're coming back out as a courtesy, so you can come back into the meeting. I think that does it for that. Let me just, again, introduce myself and then the other members of the board. I'm Mark Pattison, representing Secretary Rosado as chair of the board. Department of Health, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, this is Tom Fuller from the Department of Health, representing Dr. Howard Zucker.
And Jill from the Attorney General's office?
Yes, hi, this is Jill Faber, and I'm representing Attorney General Letitia James.
Great, thank you both for being on with us and going through this. Again, let me just give you a quick overview of the agenda so that you know when things are coming. First, I'm going to ask our counsel to explain the new rules for allowing remote meetings and public notice. If there's any questions from members about the public notice, just to make sure we're on board, we'll do that. We'll approve the minutes of both the April 8th special meeting and the April 14th regular meeting. The 5-1 meeting, the minutes are not yet ready. There'll be a rules and regulations report from our council, a division report, the usual vandalism report, and then applications for vandalism. We'll have discussions and votes by each of those, and then we'll go also have presentations on 2 applications, and we'll go into votes on those, and then we'll go into executive session, or at least take a vote to go in executive session, and when we come out, we'll return and then either talk about actions taken or we'll adjourn. So that's the run of show, as they say these days. Tony, would you like to explain the rules for all meetings and how we've met them?
Sure. This is Tony Melillo, counsel to the Cemetery Board and Division of Cemeteries. We are operating under Executive Order 202.1, which modified Article 7 of the Public Offices Law to the extent necessary to permit public bodies to meet and take such action authorized by law without permitting in-public, in-person access to meetings, and authorizing such meetings to be held remotely by conference call or similar service, provided that the public has the ability to view or listen to such proceeding and that such meetings are recorded and later transcribed. This executive order has been interpreted to suspend the requirement that board members be physically convened or convened by video conference, and to suspend the requirement that notice of the meeting include the physical location of each board member. We have given the public notice of how to attend the meeting by video conference or by telephone conference, and that's been posted on the division's website as well as published and posted elsewhere. And the board agenda and board material have been placed on the Division of Cemeteries website as well. That's it.
Thank you, Tony. Does any board members have questions of our public notice? Okay, then we'll proceed. I think we're ready to approve the minutes. Let me just take them one by one. The first is the minutes of the April 8th special meeting. They have been mailed to board members. Does anybody have any corrections or changes to the minutes of the April 8th meeting?
No, I do not.
All right, thank you.
No, I don't have any corrections.
So there being none, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the April 8th meeting as mailed and presented.
I will second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. There's a unanimous vote of the board. Now, can we move to the April 14th regular meeting minutes, which were also distributed to board members? Does anybody have any changes or corrections to those minutes?
No, I do not.
No, me either.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the April 14th meeting as mailed or distributed. All in favor? A second, please.
I will second that.
Thank you, Tom. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, minutes are approved. Thank you both for that. Next agenda item is the legislation, rules, and regulations report from our council. Tony?
Yep. So I distributed that yesterday. No action on items that had previously been pending, but a new bill was added. It's Assembly Bill 0366, Senate Bill 8276, added in Assembly on April 29, added in Senate May 1. This amends Section 141 of the Social Service Law to increase the minimum and maximum benefit for financial assistance, social services assistance for burials and cremations. Would require that during a declared emergency, payments go directly to the provider rather than require the family to pay first and then get reimbursed. That's the change.
Any questions for Tony on the legislation? Is there an update on rules? We did approve some emergency regulations at the April 8th meeting. Is that right?
Yep. Those were accepted by DAR, and they are in effect. I'm still working on the items that go with them, but the DAR council I'm working with, that we have a month to get those in. Doesn't change the effectiveness of what's been submitted, but we do have to get these things in within 30 days, and they will be in within 30 days. So yes, that emergency regulation is in effect.
Great. Any other regulatory updates or?
I believe Louis is going to address in his report the status of our draft regulations.
Right. Okay. Any questions for Tony about his report? Jill, any questions?
Questions? No.
Tom, any questions?
No, no questions.
Okay, thank you, Tony, for that. Let's move to the division report. Louis, would you like to give the division report? I didn't really introduce the staff members over here, so Louis Polchuk is the director of the program, Alicia Young is the assistant director of the program, and there are other staff available if we have questions about some of the applications. But sorry, I missed that step. Go ahead, Louis.
Hi. A couple things. Number one is, before I did the division report, I sent a chat to everyone with my email in case you want to be able to be looped back into the regular session once we come out of executive session. I'm anticipating there will, in fact, be executive session. If you're on the phone, you obviously did not see that. I don't know I'm not sure logistically what the best way is for the people who are on the phone to loop back in, but if you want to be looped back in, then I guess in public session, just say your name and that you want to be looped back in. We'll figure out a way of getting you back on there.
Or hang on.
One thing you can do is when we go to executive session, you could stay on and provide to somebody from the department is going to stay on the meeting, and just right then give them your email. That way you're not doing it in front of the whole world. And we can, or phone number, whatever you feel comfortable giving out, and then I can contact you when we loop back in. Email is better because I can do it in one blast. Now, to the division report, number one, as Tony mentioned, regulations. We've shared our bullet points on abandonment regulations with NYSAC. Those are the New York State Association of Cemeteries. Those are going to, we're scheduling a call for either Thursday or Friday. I thought we'd picked a time, but I don't see that, so I'm assuming we will pick a time later today, and we will have a call at the end of the week to have our initial discussion of what their thoughts are to our approach on the first piece of abandonment regulations. Turning to the division report itself, the first thing I want to do is thank all the cemetery and crematory workers, both the office staff, ground staff, cremation staff, I guess that's not office or grounds, for everything they've been doing, especially downstate, but also upstate and in central New York and the southern tier, where crematories have accepted cases from downstate and the North Country. Everybody's been working really hard for the last 2 months. And with the exception of a very nice article that ran in the Post, the New York Post on Monday about a gravedigger at Evergreens, there's really been very little recognition, public recognition of what the cemeteries and crematories are contributing to this. So thank you. Moving along, I'm still working on the data. There is definitely a noticeable decline in the volume of burials at cemeteries. Comparing last week to the last week in April, the numbers are definitely down across, in general. There are exceptions to that. There are some cemeteries, particularly in the outer boroughs, in Brooklyn and Queens in particular, and one in Westchester County, that are still experiencing extraordinarily heavy volume, but many of the others have seen things, both have seen the sheer numbers drop, and to a lesser extent, the time needed to schedule a burial is also dropping. We may be seeing somewhat of a similar pattern in crematories. The data is much less conclusive, and frankly, I'm going to be spending a lot of time today trying to verify it, but it looks like definitely the dates, the delay, the time it will take from when a funeral director calls to schedule a cremation to when that cremation occurs has, on average, gotten less since we measured it last week. The number of cases, I have not as good a handle on the number of cases of remains awaiting cremation. But again, this is preliminary. We are doing this data on a daily basis, but reporting is voluntary, and our data is really only as good as what people report, and our toolkit for forcing people to report daily is somewhat limited in that they're busy trying to keep up with cremations, and we understand that. But we're going to hopefully be looking at the data to see if we can detect a trend hopefully later today. And that's pretty much all I've got right now. Obviously one thing that cemeteries in regions of the state that are opening up should bear in mind is that those regions are beginning to open up. They obviously are essential businesses. They never closed in the first place, but the opening up of society around them could end up affecting them. So it's just something to be aware of. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Louis. Does anyone have any questions for Louis on his division report? Tom?
Yeah, I just got one question. As they start easing restrictions across the state, will you be putting up regional guidance for the cemeteries as far as gatherings at cemeteries? I know there's been a lot of questions to the Bureau of Funeral Directing about how that's going to play out.
I'd probably wait to see what you guys said. Also, it's not at all clear to me yet. I haven't read the whole, what's it called, New York Forward plan? I haven't read the whole plan yet, so I don't know what it says about gatherings yet. I'm fairly certain that the number of people for gatherings is unaffected in phase one.
It's unchanged, yeah.
I mean, I don't even remember whether that was one of the phases where we go back to gatherings of 50. I don't think I saw that.
No.
So as of now, I don't unless the governor actually changes the guidance on gatherings, I don't anticipate our guidance on gatherings changing. That's not to say that cemeteries that have been very strict, we've given cemeteries a fair amount of, as I think the Department of Health has as well, we've given cemeteries a fair amount of leeway within the executive order of how they're going to interpret it, what's best for them. So one could imagine a cemetery that's only been allowing one car in, explicitly allowing up to 10 people. So they may, within the existing gatherings rules, decide to be a little bit more flexible. I don't see that as something we're going to mandate, just like we haven't mandated it now. I don't.
Right.
I think a model that they're using for businesses, which a business has to develop a plan for the achievement of protection, social distancing, monitoring, all that would apply. So these are essential businesses that currently have their own plan, and I think they need to maintain having a plan for how they'll deal with making sure their employees are safe, making sure their customers and other participants are safe, and how they'll monitor that is probably the guidance that is now and probably stays the same. But we'll have to monitor that, and it's going to be a lot more interesting because it's a regional approach, and so each region will have might have different rules, and if theoretically if the numbers changed and got worse, the region might make a decision, and that might affect how people treat social distancing and numbers of people and all that, the density. So.
All right, thank you.
Jill, did you have any questions on Lewis's report?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. All right, so now we have our vandalism applications. Do we have a vandalism report, or do we want to just go straight to the applications?
I have a vandalism. This is Alicia Young with the Division of Cemeteries. I have a vandalism report. Not much has changed since last month other than the collections. Calendar year collections for vandalism is $406,879. Assessment collections are $232,794. Fiscal year collections from April 1st, 2020. Vandalism $22,547. Assessment $15,962. We have yet to approve any vandalism or applications this fiscal year. We have 3 on the agenda this month, totaling $82,811.64. Annual reports, we've collected 1,033 annual reports so far. We've received 334 annual reports using the online submission, representing 32% of all annual reports filed. And that's it.
Okay. Any questions for Alicia in terms of the vandalism report? Alicia or Louis, I've lost my agenda right in front of you. So can you take us through each of the vandalism applications, what we have in front of us?
This is Mike Seelman, Senior Investigator with the Division of Cemeteries.
Okay.
We have 3 hazardous monument applications. One is Seneca Cemetery in Ontario County. It's 40 monuments totaling $41,230.30. One is Glendale Cemetery in Lewis County. 22 hazardous monuments totaling $19,168.20. And one is Oleout Valley Cemetery in Delaware County. There's 20 hazardous monuments, and it totals $22,413.14.
Thank you, Mike. And those were all inspected and verified as we usually do?
Yes, each of them was.
Are there any other comments about these applications? Tony, did you have anything you wanted to add to these 3 applications?
Just more observation and issues on Elliott. Noted that one bidder offered a 10-year warranty. The higher bidder offered a 20-year warranty. But the higher bid also was not firm on the bid. They left open the possibility that they could go even higher if based on unforeseen circumstances. I just wanted to highlight that. In Seneca Cemetery, I'll note that even though there's only 1 bid submitted now, there were 2 bids when the application initially came in. Because of delays, one of the bids was refused, but the cemetery did comply with the requirement of 2 bids. In Glendale, I'll note that the cemetery received only 1 bid. They did make extra effort to find another bidder and even published a newspaper seeking an additional bid. At some point, if we the number of cemeteries coming in with 1 bid, we're going to have to address, because our regulation does require that application shall include at least 2 copies of bids submitted by at least 2 contractors. So if we're finding cemeteries are unable to comply with that, we're going to have to modify our regulation.
But at this point, you think we're on all 3 of those issues, we're able to proceed? Tony?
Yes, I think.
Okay, so since we've already had Mike detail them out each separately by name and by amount, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the 3 applications for hazardous monuments as described by Mike Seelman in his presentation. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Jill. All in favor, or any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Thank you. We've approved the 3 applications for hazardous monuments. Those are approved subject to appropriations, as we've now come to say automatically. Okay. So I think the next thing is an application from Canandaigua Cemetery, 35-004 for a columbarium. Would staff like to present that application?
This is Mike Seelman again. Woodlawn Cemetery, Canandaigua, Ontario County has requested permission to install 4 columbarium units, 2 96 niche and 264, totaling 320 niches. They have currently 3 columbarium units with only 6 units remaining. Approval from their Board of Trustees to purchase and install these units. The total price is $148,506.98. The bulk of that will come from the general fund. They had their notice posted appropriately. However, they did not list the end date. Require them to post the notice, indicate that comments will be accepted, indicate the date 60 days in the future until which comments will be accepted. They did not indicate that. However, the signs were posted in excess of that 60 days. The only comments that they received were positive comments, people wishing to either purchase or that stated that they would enjoy seeing that in the cemetery. The cemetery has recommended approval of this. Excuse me, the Division of Cemeteries has recommended approval of this.
Thank you, Mike. Is there any questions or discussions? Tony, you have anything to add on this application?
Just a few points. I'll note, and I've seen this before, this cemetery is heavily dependent on its dividends and interest to end up with a balanced income and expense, dividends and interest. It's close to the edge right now, but without those, it would be in the red every year. So it's something to watch for with this cemetery. Also have a question for Division. In one spot, Division reports that the cemetery has $616,000 in general funds, but in another spot it says $230,551, and that's a significant issue because $135,000 of this project will come from general funds. Has Division had a chance to clarify how much is in general funds?
This is Karen DeYoung, the senior accountant that handled the financial side of this transaction, and the 230-some thousand reference was through 12/31/18 in anticipation of wanting an updated general funds balance for this process. We obtained the $616,000 through 12/31/19, which has not yet been filed. It is on extension with us, their reports. So that was an email that we received from the cemetery on 3/23. And we've gone so far as to obtain yet another figure on 4/30, just to be assured. The general fund as of 4/30 stands at $520,000.
Any idea how their general funds jumped so much in 1 year? Because they're
I included it with my write-up. On May 6th of 2019, the board approved a $550,000 net appreciation application.
Okay. That makes sense. Those are funds that they're designated to spend towards maintenance through a net appreciation application.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
Okay, great. The other thing I noticed there are some pages missing in the application. Page 3 of the application itself, page 3 of Schedule A. I don't know if those have been added since I first sent my review.
That's a question for the division staff. Louis or Alicia, is there an answer for that?
You're looking for Schedule A, Tony?
Yeah, the application, I only see page 1 of 3 and 2 of 3, and then Schedule A, I see page 1 of 3 and 2 of 3. It got out of order, or I just missed it.
That be Exhibit B?
Exhibit, yes, Exhibit B, correct.
It's all there. The application, four-year comparison, Schedule A, pages 1 and 2, and the Schedule B, ROI.
Why does the application on the bottom, it says pages 1 of 3 and 2 of 3? Is it a 2-page document, or is it a 3-page?
1 of 3, 1, 2.
On the draft application form, which we shouldn't be using because it's never been approved, page 3 is a list of the things you're supposed to attach.
Okay. And is that the same for Schedule A?
I thought Schedule A was 2 pages. This is from recollection.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. And other than, Mike already reporting that, the posting didn't is the last which comments could be received. I don't have any other comments. I don't think this ever prevent approval of this application.
Okay, thank you, Tony. I'll make a motion to approve the application of Woodlawn Canandaigua Cemetery. I'm not sure exactly what the right title is, but it's application 35-004 for their columbarium issues. Is there any further discussion by members of the board? Questions on this motion? Jill, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
You, Tom, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. So I'm looking for a second.
I'll second.
Seconded by Jill. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. We've approved the application of Woodlawn Canandaigua Cemetery for their addition of columbarium. The next application is an application from Oxford Hills Crematory, which is a standalone crematory. Louis, would you like to just present or have someone present the application?
I don't know, Carrie or Andrew, do you want to do it, or?
I'm fine with you doing it.
Yeah, I can step in whenever needed on the, this is Andrew Hickey, senior accountant that handled the financial analysis of the replacement retort. But Louis, if you have any, if you want me to step in, just let me know.
I mean, the big picture is, as everyone is aware, downstate area is experiencing an extremely high volume of cremations and has been since late March. Oxford Hills Crematory in particular, which is a grandfathered standalone affiliated, connected to, I'm not sure what the exact right word is, the Flynn Funeral Home, has been hit pretty hard with cases coming, I think, not just from its usual customers, but from other areas as well. And they've gone from doing everything in timely fashion to scheduling a month out and having several hundred cases in the pipeline. They have a retort. They have 3 retorts, one of which has not been operational since 2009. They are now seeking to replace the non-operational retort to bring it up to have a third operating retort to allow them to keep up with the volume they're currently experiencing. Based on current volume, based on current volume, the retort should pay for itself. There are also considerations that I know there have been some questions raised about in terms of cost savings, that once the pandemic hopefully abates, they'll be able to rely more heavily on a newer and presumably less, more efficient in terms of use of utilities, and more efficient in terms of not being offline for repairs, retort. I know the one question the division stopped short of recommending approval primarily because the Attorney General, there had been a referral to the Attorney General for investigation of issues back in, I want to say 2011. And we're unaware that the Attorney General has resolved those remaining issues. There was also some negotiation that was initially with us, and I think became part of that. This is mostly before my time. Became part of that was that the board imposed a penalty. The division imposed a penalty, proposed to impose a penalty for primarily for not filing required annual reports. And there was a subsequent negotiation of the amount of the penalty, but that penalty still remains unpaid, I think, because the AG's investigation remains still open. So we would need greater clarity from the Attorney General's office as to, before recommending approval, as to whether there's any they regard there being any outstanding issues that would impede this. I know counsel had some legal issues that he raised as well. Those are separate from our report and probably should be discussed in executive session.
Right. And so one of the major issues is because this is a grandfathered standalone. This is Mark Fassel speaking. They are not allowed to increase their capacity. There's some question about whether the third retort is an increase in capacity or is a replacement of capacity that they had when they were originally grandfathered. Is the applicant available on the line is there anything you'd like to add to this? I'm going to recommend we go to executive session and discuss this after that, but I'd be glad to hear from the applicant if they wanted to add anything at this point.
Yeah, this is David Flynn for Oxford Hills Crematory. And the need for it, that machine was shut down in 2009 because of safety concerns, along with, the community. It was no longer functional, and we couldn't bring it up to code. And we had discussions with the manufacturer, numerous discussions. And the cost of bringing that up to code would far exceed what the purchase price of a new retort would be. If we went through all the renovation work on it, there's still no guarantee because they have to change the burners, which that are on the machine was producing nitrous oxide, and that was causing a problem where it was eating away at the burners and disintegrating them and causing excessive amount of carbon monoxide. So that, along with the door, we elected for our safety, the community safety, to be compliant with the DEC. That would be in the best interest of the community and us to shut it down. But
let me ask you, Dave. Let me ask you just one quick question. What is the age of your other two retorts?
The first retort is 30 years old, and the third unit that is operating is approximately 29 years old.
More specifically, do you know? I don't know whether you know the answer to this, but are those two going to be able to be modified to come into compliance with DEC's new regulations? Yes. My recollection is that 1990 is more or less a cutoff for whether you can come into compliance with the new rules.
That is correct. we can, bring those in for the new DEC regulations. The problem is we're taxing them beyond belief right now. I know there's a crematory in Long Island that has the N20A, and I think they have 5 units, and they're cremating 25 cases a day. We, right presently, are averaging 10 to 12 a day, and that's on 2 machines that are older. We've been at this, a pretty long time. Our capacity when we opened, if they go back and look at the records, showed we were called in when the AIDS epidemic first started back in the 90s, and the volume at that time was 3,000, 3,200. I don't recollect the exact number, but it was and once we got through the pandemic, we were still doing 2,000, 2,500 cremations a year.
It might be, this is Mark Passon, it might be useful for you to provide some documentation as to whether you're using all 3 retorts as full retorts, not as a backup at the time of your grandfathered status. Are you saying that you were at one point running all 3?
Oh, yes.
We may be looking for some information there. Is there anything else that you want to add to this? I understand that there's a need.
This is Tommy Flynn here.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
How are you?
Good.
Good. I think the safe way to put it, and I'm not a mechanical engineer and I'm not a computer guy, but I have a 30-year-old computer. Now, it does function, very inefficient. I can decrease the gas consumption, come into compliance with the Department of Environmental Conservation, and cut down on work hours. And on top of that, where everybody's so concerned about the pandemic, we can be truly safe to ourselves, where it was unsafe to operate the machine. All we're asking for is safety for ourselves, and when we have families that come in, we couldn't operate the machine. So, if you kind of look at it, can you do what you do today? Could we have this conference today on a 286 or a 386 processor? I'm trying to keep up with the pandemic with a 286 or a 386 processor, and we're working 20 hours a day, 6-7 days a week, and I'm going to run into problems with the DEC because I've begun super saturated. If you have a castable that has a 3,200 degree for a 12-hour retention, and I'm at 72-hour retention consistently, I'm beyond supersaturated. So I lose my efficiency, even what I did have in a 30-year-old machines, because they don't have any time to breathe and cool down. So imagine taking your car from New York City and it's overheating it and running to Albany. You just hope to make it.
Okay. Oh, and Elton, didn't mean to cut you off, sir.
I'm sorry, that's all right. I was just trying to put it so you kind of understand what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, I think we understand that because of your status, grandfather standalone, and previous issues that were not quite clear as to how they've been resolved. I want to go to executive session to discuss this application further. Tony, before I make a motion to go to executive session, is there anything that you would add?
Yeah, if I could, I just want to highlight some points. Louis mentioned the Attorney General referrals. Really, the issue there is whether this crematory and its affiliated entities, and there are a few, have resolved the issues that the board found when it issued its board order and when it found, when it made a subsequent referral to the Attorney General, because there were subsequent issues. So if the crematory crematory can demonstrate to the satisfaction of division and the board that all those issues have been resolved, and the burden is on the crematory and the affiliates to do that, then those issues are resolved, and the referral to the Attorney General's office is resolved. On the penalties, I think Louis put it correctly. Division doesn't have the power to impose penalties, it recommends penalties. But then the burden shifts to the crematory to object and seek a hearing. There actually, I went through the records, there was a request for a hearing. There's actually one scheduled with Scott Najim. The board had assigned it to an arbitrator who deals with licensing hearings to hear. But at the request of the crematory and their counsel, Ralph Shona, that was adjourned with the eye of settling penalties. Well, they never settled, and so we never had our hearing. The hearing never restarted. So those penalties, that issue ought to all be resolved as well as to the status of those penalties. But on the legal issue, I will point out that, you know, I've spoken to Len Breen. He's been the investigator assigned to this story for many years. And he has stated that, to his recollection, even when that third retort was operational prior to 2009, it was only used as a backup to the other two. That the crematory was never running all three at once. Again, actually.
May I please interject?
I'm sorry, I just want to get this point out. I agree with what Mark said, that the critical point is actually when, it's January 1, 1998, when the anti-combination law took effect, the grandfathering took effect, and it's been the board's determination in numerous cases that a grandfathered crematory only gets what it had on 1/1/98. So it's important for the crematory itself to demonstrate to the board what it was doing, not just how many retorts it owned, but whether they were running all three at once at that time or running the third just as a backup to the other two.
Can I please interject?
I think those were the only points I wanted to make. Yes, I'm done.
Go ahead and identify yourself again, please.
This is Tommy Flynn. The records that the investigators reviewed will clearly indicate that the machines, because to achieve peak efficiency, we would operate the machines in tandem, bringing the largest case in per day, and then each machine was designed, whether we were doing a casket that day or obese body or a medical school. So the records would definitely reflect from day one of the initiation, it was Ed Hand that recommended we purchase the second and then the third machine. It was Ed Hand that sent in 4 other crematories in the state of New York at his suggestion to learn how to operate 3 machines in tandem. And I believe that the records in the Division of Cemeteries will indicate that I personally trained 2 distinct crematories how to operate the machines that were constantly used. Not only that, the DEC reports and the chart recordings that the DEC verified would definitely confirm throughout the history, since 1989, those 3 machines were used.
And we did always, comply with the DEC requirement of the annual inspections on those machines. And they were always used, all 3 of them, in tandem. The reason is, it's a situation that we're in now. This is David Flynn, by the way. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Both the 3 machines were always used in tandem to reduce a 14, 16-hour day down to a manageable level of work. But at all times, you have three units there, and, if you have 12, 15 cases to cremate in a day, we wouldn't just use 2 machines, and, we would start each machine, start with the heaviest cases or with a casket, and, just keep, cremating in each unit. They were always used. There was no reason to keep one off. They were always operated.
We appreciate you sharing that with us. We may need to get, this application came in just a little while ago. We're cognizant of the context that we're in with, you know, an obviously high need for crematory capacity. I'm going to make a motion, unless you have more that you'd like to add, that we go into executive session.
Excuse me, this is hello. This is Ralph Scherner, the lawyer for Oxford. If I could just comment for 2 minutes. Hello.
Sure, please do.
Hello. Good morning to all. I just want to. I can't address the technical issues, of course, but I can address the issues, if you want to call them that, regarding the AG's investigation or inquiry. And I can represent to the board that all of the modifications that were requested as a result of this inquiry have been implemented and have been undertaken for the last 5 or 6 years without any difficulties, without anyone indicating there were any problems with that. As far as the penalty is concerned, there had been an agreement between Mr. Melillo and me that there would be a penalty of $12,000, and I had requested at the time that it be paid over time, and that request was never responded to by Mr. Melillo or anybody else. We were told that there had to be a formal settlement agreement that would be drafted by the AG's office. I was waiting for that document to be prepared and sent to me. It never was. And as far as the hearing is concerned, yes, I did request an adjournment of the hearing when I had a conflict in my trial schedule. But subsequent to that, it was Mr. Melillo who contacted the administrative law judge and said that based upon the agreement that he and I had come to, which had yet to been ratified by the AG's office, there would be no need for the hearing. So we were under the impression that this was all resolved, and I should point out that no one has come back to us in the last 5 years indicating there was any noncompliance with the modifications that were requested, nor did anybody come back to us with respect to the penalty. And I consulted with my clients about it. They're willing and able to pay the penalty, and we would propose that we pay $6,000 as soon as the board tells us to do so, and the remaining $6,000 within 45 days. I think that should resolve all of those issues.
Thank you for that, and we'll take that into consideration when we go into executive session. Again, my goal here, we will go to executive session to discuss this. We will come back out of executive session and we will reconvene in public session. If there is action to be taken, we will take it at that time, or we will share the fact that what the results or if non-action results of our deliberations are. We are prepared, assuming that issues can be resolved, that we could even move to a special meeting of the board in recognition of the context of the times that we're in. So again, this is a little bit more complicated than some because of its status as a standalone crematory and because of some outstanding issues. We would like to make sure they're resolved. If they're resolved to mutual satisfaction, the board can then take up the matter either at the end of this meeting or at a subsequent meeting. So if there's no other, well, let me do this so that people don't have to wait. Before we go to executive session, let me just say, if there are members of the public that would like to address the board, do you want to do that now? And then when we come back out, we can just have a couple issues, either action or adjournment. So let me just say, if you want to address the board now, please do so.
Mr. Chairman, it's Dave Fleming from the New York State Association of Cemeteries. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, sir.
Okay, thanks. I just want to thank the division and the board members for the constant communication since mid-March. We've spent more time together than we probably would like to over the many weeks, and sometimes 7 days a week. But I want to thank them for all the outreach and the communication and support that they've been providing our members, cemeteries and crematories, and being advocates for us. It's been very helpful. These are really challenging times. We're getting, as the pandemic continues and we see volume of remains that are, far advanced in decomposition, we're seeing all kinds of additional challenges for our crematory members who are dealing with bodies in just a horrible state and condition when they're being delivered to our crematories. And of late, a number of reports where bodies are being delivered to the crematories that have not had their pacemakers removed, causing explosions within the retorts. And that's a really serious concern. And obviously, given the state of decomposition, I'm assuming that most of those lingering issues that had never been resolved at the time of death will continue. So that's a real concern about damage to retorts and capacity in New York going forward. There's nothing that this board can do, but I wanted to make you aware of it. It's, concerning. There's a reason we have regulations, and there's a reason we have disclosures. And it's unfortunate that those aren't being adhered to. But primarily, I just wanted to say thank you, and we look forward to continue working with you, particularly on the abandonment regs later in the week. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Are there other members of the public that are interested in speaking to the board? And if you are on the line, would you also just, even if you don't want to speak, would you identify yourself so that we can take attendance? So please identify yourself and then let me know if you want to speak.
Mark, just to clarify, I think we only need people who are calling in to identify themselves. We have the names of everyone who's logged in via computer on WebEx.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Anybody? I have 7 callers showing, so I want to make sure we get, although some of those may be people just using their phone for audio. Okay. So if you're just on the phone, please identify yourself.
Joshua Beams, Department of State.
Sorry, somebody else got cut off by Josh?
I believe a few of these people are our staff.
All right, I'm going to take that as no one else wishing to speak to the board at this time, and nobody else online that is a member of the public.
Mark, it's Alicia again. I have one question. Ralph from Oxford Hills. I didn't get your last name.
It's Ralph Schoene. It's spelled S-C-H-O-E-N-E.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Again, I'm going to make a motion to go into executive session.
Can I add to, I only have a speakerphone. Can somebody call me when you're out?
Or should we just stay on the line?
You could stay on the line. I don't know how long it'll be.
Okay.
Okay.
I could text. I have Dave Flynn's cell phone. I could text him when we come back out of executive session.
Thank you.
And then he can loop you guys back in, which means, Mark, when we switch to regular session, we should probably recess for 2 minutes to give people time to get back on.
Yep, okay. I want to make sure everybody has their fair...
If that's the case, I am going to leave this meeting and start the executive session.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
This meeting will stay open. Someone on our staff will be monitoring it, and the board members should leave this and then go to the other meeting invitation that you got from Lewis. So can I have a motion? I'll make a motion that we go to executive session to discuss Oxford Hills and perhaps other matters if Tony has them. Can I have a second?
I will second that.
Thank you, Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. A motion to go to executive session is approved. We will be back as soon as we can. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Okay, just to check, we're coming back into public session. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Yes, I hear you.
I want to make sure we leave time for our applicants and any other users to come on.
Let's give them another minute.
Okay.
I just texted Flynn and emailed Bruce and Dave. Just try to do a little housekeeping here. All right, so who's on?
Hey, Alicia?
I think we've got everyone back.
Okay.
Wait, we should probably ask.
Are you asking, Louis?
Do we have Oxford Hills on the line? Not that again. Do we have counsel for Oxford Hills on the line? That's
yes, I am here, yes.
Okay. Mark, I think if they're represented, we can just go ahead.
Okay. Right.
I mean, Dave didn't get back on. You can let him know what happens.
Tony, do I need to move to get back into public session, or just we're back in public session?
You're back. You're good.
I think you did that when we left.
Thank you. I'm going to summarize where we are with the application for Oxford Hill for a new retort. The board has a couple issues to resolve. We need to resolve the issue about whether or not the retort is consistent with the capacity they had at the time of being grandfathered. We'll review our records and also, if need be, reach out to Oxford Hills for documentation of what the status of the third retort was at the time of being grandfathered. And we will expedite our review of the impact of that on the law in terms of increasing capacity of a grandfathered standalone crematory. We also will authorize our counsel to work with the board counsel, or the applicant's counsel, to come to an agreement about the past AG referrals and settlement requests, including the discussion about fines, and bring that to a mutual agreement. We will do that again in as expedited a way as possible, and assuming we can resolve them, we will bring this back either for consideration of the board at a special meeting or at the next board meeting, which is on June 9th. I'm just asking my fellow board members if that's consistent with what we discussed when we came to an executive session.
Yes.
And we'll take no action at this moment. Tony, is there anything that consistent with what we discussed?
Yes, that's entirely consistent with my notes.
Great.
It better be consistent with my notes, because those are the ones that are going to become the minutes.
Well, they all get reviewed until Lewis. All right. So again, I would offer the applicant a chance to add anything or ask any questions at this time.
When will it be decided? This is Ralph Scherner. When will it be decided if a special meeting is to be held, and how would that be scheduled?
We will schedule it the way we normally would any meeting. We'll let you know. We'll post it. We'll make it it's a public meeting. That's contingent on our ability to answer the questions about the status of the three retorts at the time, and of our ability to resolve an expedited review of the questions of what the law requires I don't think necessarily it would be good if the agreements were in place, but we can sort of play that by ear in terms of, you know, how far we get, making sure we get far enough to be present to the board something that they'd be satisfied with. So we understand the context that we're in. We will do this with what I would call all due deliberate speed.
This is Dave Flynn. I'm back online, just so you know. I had a little trouble getting through.
Sorry.
David, technology makes everything easier, right? That's because you're using that old 30-year-old computer, which I don't believe for a second. Okay. So does that answer your question, Robert?
Ralph?
Yes,
Ralph,
it does. Well, it does answer it. I'm just wondering, I mean, you know, you all know the urgency that the applicant is facing, and we would like, obviously, to have this resolved as quickly as possible. I'm willing to work with Mr. Melillo or whoever it would be to resolve the things I can take care of.
That's fabulous.
Maybe we can do that even this week if necessary.
If we can, that would be great.
Right. The first issue is in at least in the first instance is in our hands. We're going to start working on this as soon as the meeting adjourns. The second issue is, I think, entirely in your and Tony's hands, and the sooner you talk, the sooner that can get resolved.
We understand the urgency. We share it, but we need to have these things resolved before the board can take consider an action. And a special meeting, even though we've got lots of flexibility, does require optimally a little time so that it's properly noticed as opposed to an emergency meeting. So, but we're glad to do that. The good news about working at home, even though everybody's or working remotely, got a pretty full plate. It does make scheduling meetings a little bit more flexible. So, all right. Any other members of the public wishing to speak? We set the next board meeting on June 9th at 10:30. Again, it's likely to be by a remote meeting. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. I'll make the motion, entertain the second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Alicia. Hey, Alicia?
Yeah?
If you want to drop the signatures by, I'll sign them today or whenever you're coming home by the...
Okay, I will do that.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you all. I appreciate your attendance, and thank you to the applicants for their efforts as well. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.